Hello, lovelies. I'm back. This is Kimberly Purpose, and welcome to my channel. I found another interesting article that I just stumbled across, and I want to share it with you guys. I thought this was really interesting. Uh, this particular article is called "The First American Black United States." It says the first Americans were Black. United States Census Bureau's Great White Majority Hoax. And this was written by Jack Fisher, and it was published on March 17, 2017. I am so sorry about all these ads up here. This particular article is published on Euroweb. It says Electronic Urban Report, and it's by Lee Bailey's. Now, let me scroll down here. Now, for all y'all who don't know, this has been circulating all over, all over the internet. It's by Johnny Aboriginal, and so I think this is really nice. For those of y'all who haven't seen it already, it pretty much says here: the Negro type is seen as the most ancient Mexican sculptures. The Negroes figure frequently in the most remote traditions of some American Pueblos. It is those race doubly belongs to the most ancient skeletons, distinct from the red American race, which have found in various places from Bolivia to Mexico. It is likely that we repeat America was the Negro continent by Carlos Curvo Marquez. And I guess he was born in 1858 and he died in 1930. And he was a scientist here. And he's the one who documents that, Aborigines were here in America. And I wanted to do this article because, it's still, some people still don't realize that we are indigenous here in the Americas. And I think it's very important that we know that. And I was just doing some research about the census because I just noticed that, I don't know if you all noticed that every time you look at the census, every year, and it seems like we always at 13%, which I think is odd. And I read in another article, I believe it was an article or some sort of statistical report, and it showed that we've been at 30% for quite a long time, and it hasn't budged, which I just think is very odd. And it's just weird how they use the number 13. 13 is not a very lucky number. It's for those of y'all who study astrology. And sometimes, the reason why I'm looking, maybe I'm digging further into stuff. I just think it's weird that they always using the number 13 to represent us. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's a bill that's number 13 that's dealing with Aboriginal. I can't remember what it is, but it was a long time ago. But I just see that number always popping up as it relates to us in different ways, especially like the 13% is an unlucky number. And if you study astrology, you'll know that that's an unlucky number. And I just noticed that this society is filled with a lot of rituals and numerology. It's just weird. And it's all a tactic to try to strip us of our indigenous roots, our heritage, and to try to keep us as slaves, pretty much, even to this very day. And so these are all the tactics that Europeans have used, and one of the other tactics here, and I sort of got off the topic, but I just want to mention that to you all. But I was looking at here about the census and how it's always showing that the Great Caucasians are always the majority. And they're showing that this is a hoax because, and I agree with this author. I skimmed through the report, but I'm going to read it with you all. How it's strange that we are always at the same 13%, whereas everybody else seems large, especially Great Caucasians. And they're showing how they use different tactics to chump their numbers up to make it look like there's more of them here, when actually not, such as using the Hispanics, with their statistics to make it look like there's more of them here. When in actuality, if you take Hispanics and, all the other ethnic groups that they include, it'll show that is not that many of them as they try to portray. It's much less, and they try to keep this narrative going. And at the same time, I think they lower our numbers, have different ways of tactics of trying to do it. Back in the day, they had, they count us as a full human, like a third of a human back in the day. So, sometimes they adjust the numbers accordingly. Just a thought. I'm not sure what they're doing, but we're going to look at this article, and they're going to show how they're doing it. And I just like how he included this. This sort of fits very well with, from Johnny Aboriginal with the article. And it says here, America Negro continent. It has been widely known by most of the elite academic global populations of Europe. The Greys, along with the Spaniards and others in ancient post-colonial Americans, both North and South, was populated by melanated blacks and melanated Aborigines and brown people with desirable, rich, thriving civilizations, remarkable cities, global commerce, and trade. The myth that Columbus, Spain, England, or any other foreign innovator came to America for any reason other than to kill, plunder, destroy, loot, and enslave is a lie of monumental magnitude. It's a lie to the third power time, Google, without question, on the biggest undocumented mass genocides of all time, with the destruction of over 200 million plus indigenous native Indians and people of color in the Americas, North and South. Wow. And this is true. And a lot of to America and see, and this is the truth. Pretty much this whole paragraph is the truth. They pretty much came over here to destroy. They knew the people over here in the Americas did not have guns. And what they did was just use their weaponry against the people and took over the land. And that's exactly what he's saying, describing in this particular paragraph. And then let's scroll down here. It says the melanated first Americans in some cases were driven to mere extinction. And all of this happened right here in the United States as the founding fathers plundered life, liberty, and pursuit of prosperity. The new Constitution in the land of free was being envisioned by European slaveholders. And pretty much all they did was enslave the indigenous people. I don't think they killed all the Aborigines. I believe they killed some and then they enslaved them. That's pretty much what took place. They enslaved them. And it would be nice if some scientists would go and look. I'm pretty sure if we researched it further, you can probably find these mass burials of these people that died from at the hands of these Europeans. These great Caucasoids who came over here and destroyed, who destroyed this great civilization of the indigenous people. Our people, pretty much. In fact, the lie that all Native Americans died of disease and war is another alternative alt-truth and revisionary history hoax. Exactly. And that is a hoax. I agree with this author. Because the fact is that 20 million plus indigenous people were not killed, nor did they die in Americas, but because of their skin tone, a darker hue, enslaved. See? Enslaved. Exactly. That's what's happened. And reclassified on the U.S. Census as colored, Negro, black, mulatto, in some cases white, and finally African Americans. Well, gray, in other words, no matter what their lineage, ethnicity, or nationality. With the stroke of a pen, which is paper genocide pretty much, an entire civilization was erased and stricken from global history forever, denying the original indigenous their true American identity. And that's us, the AKA African Americans, the Aborigines. We were the ones that were stripped of our identity, more so than anybody. Pretty much, no, we were the only main ones that lost it because they want to keep this great supremacy alive. United States Census numbers don't add up exactly. It doesn't. Where did all the Caucasian Europeans come from? That's what I want to know. That's a good question. How can Europeans, a whole wandering tribe, descendants from the caves of the Caucasus Mountains, a hostile, desolate, icy wasteland, claim to be American and global majority when the plague wiped out most of their population during Europe during the Dark Ages? Exactly. I thought about that too. It says the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, utterly destroyed the majority of Europeans' population during the 14th, 15th, and 16th century, sweeping through the peninsula, the grave consequence. Most of us are taught that Europe is a continent. However, that point is debatable. See? This person is really laying out the truth here. I'm enjoying this article. Let's continue. It says here, the suffering, death, finally ended with the Great Plague taking place in 1665 to 1666, which was the final blow to a struggling population of the brink of elimination. The plague would claim over 50 million people, 60 of the European population, before it concluded. It is a mystery as to what caused such mass human destruction. However, filth, rodent, and close proximity to animals are documented as possible causes. Exactly. They were, when the indigenous people described the Europeans, the Great Caucasoids, they described them as being very nasty and disgusting people. They didn't believe in taking baths and washing themselves. And they had problems with lice, and they were just disgusting. And they brought all their diseases here into the Americas. And that's how a lot of people died off. No, they used germ warfare on these people. And they knew they were nasty. And the people, and a lot of the indigenous people were not immune to this, to the European diseases that they brought over. And then not only that, they had guns and they were shooting people left and right and just killing folks. That's pretty much all they did. And they got, and I wanted to also mention the Great Caucasoids did not discover gunpowder. That was discovered by the Asians. And the Asians didn't use it to go around killing people like the Great Caucasoids did. So the Great Caucasoids did not create gunpowder. That was created by the Asians, if I'm not mistaken. But let's continue. So how could Europeans have 100 million people available to leave and travel across the ocean to populate America in such a vast numbers? The answer is mathematically impossible and will have crippled Europe's economic systems, and that many people abandoned the Commonwealth. The entire structure and civilization would collapse. Exactly. Plus, in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, and all those time that they came over here, claim they did in the 17th century, they didn't have the technology to bring over, they didn't have the type of boats and engines to bring over that massive group of people over into the Americas. They always try to claim that with the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, they didn't bring over that many Africans. It's already been proven that only a few Africans were brought over into the United States, and that most of the people that were thrown into slavery were the indigenous people here in the Americas. Slavery was told in reverse. And here's a beautiful statue of the California Indians. Isn't she pretty? I love her twist. A lot of us wear our hair like that today. I even wear my hair like that. I wear my hair in that style too. It's very beautiful. And let me see if they had a name of the statue. No, they don't have a name of it, but I know she's the queen of the California Indians. She was the chief, I believe. But let's continue. I've seen her picture all over, the internet. And here it is, and they had a listing right here. It says eugenic manipulation of the census numbers, the great white hoax. Exactly. This is how they did it. They used eugenics to deceive everyone. And it has here the white population from 1790 through 2010. And it says here, they claim that in 1790, I believe this is around the time they started the census, they said there's 3,172,006 gray caucasoids here in the Americas. Okay? They claim it made up 80% of the population, supposedly. And then down here, and it says here, and this is how big their population says 1890, 55,000. So it jumped, supposedly. 55 million. It says in just 100 years, the European American population grew by 51,929,253. How can this be? Manipulation of the data. Exactly. They could not reproduce that quick. It's highly inflated. And we need to start questioning them on the statistics. And anyway, back in those days, you couldn't, traveling and all that wasn't all that advanced. So you're not going to be able to catch everybody. And so some of those folks probably just threw a number, tossed a number in the air and just wrote wherever they felt like it back then. I don't trust the numbers at all. And we shouldn't, because they lied about the transatlantic slave trade and lied about us being indigenous here. No telling what else they lie about. You can't trust anything that they say. Everything has been told in reverse and filled with lies. And then it goes down and he just explains and shows the discrepancies in the number. And then they have this huge, gigantic number at the bottom. Well, let's continue here. And it says, in 110 additional years, we were led to believe that we had a total of 220 million, over 220 million more European immigrants arrive in America. This too is fake information and is mathematically impossible equation. And I agree with the author. A lot of this stuff has been inflated, you all. And it really has. So with all the Crusades, the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and all the other perpetual wars, as well as illnesses, exactly, plagues, cultural missing, natural and accidental deaths, where did all these grays come from? If 60% of this population was wiped out in the 14th, 15th, and 16th century by the bubonic plague. Exactly. I've been wondering the same thing. A lot of this don't make any sense. We should start questioning them about that. They wrote everything. Of course, they're gonna put everything, in, to fit their narrative. And that's all they did. They wrote everything to fit their narrative. If the indigenous people couldn't read and write, they made sure that everybody stayed illiterate, and only people that could read and write were gray caucasoid. They're gonna put in the gray caucasoid elite. They're gonna put down whatever they want to put down. And of course, if they don't have nobody questioning them and asking them what in the hell they're doing, of course they're gonna put down what they want to put down. And that's exactly what they did. They put inflated numbers. They just tossed number in the air and just wrote it down. That's exactly what they did. They didn't do anything special. Okay, and it's not true statistics. And back then, they just didn't have the technology to go all over the states like they claim and get accurate numbers. I'm pretty sure they didn't get no accurate numbers. They didn't have the technology to do it. Not to be pinpoint with accuracy. So I'm guessing, I believe that they probably just threw a number in the air, wrote it down, tried to keep it inflated, just so they can keep their numbers high, up, and and make sure that nobody questioned them about it. But anyway, here's a beautiful picture of an emblem of America. Very pretty. And the picture of the first Americans, the indigenous people, Aborigine. Very pretty. Beautiful artwork. And it says, an emblem of America. And then it goes into detail. The title of Emblem of America, London, and it was published first February 1801, and it was done by Haynes and Sons. And it's in the British Museum text. But yeah, it's in this article. It goes into more detail of this particular article, of this particular artwork. I think it's quite interesting. And it says here, is the etching, it says it's an etching, quote, is an allegorical figure shown full length, standing left, head tilted to right, wearing a leopard skin. And it says here, imply the figure, it says, yeah. At first they tried to say, because of the leopard skin, that it was from Africa, but through a thorough research and careful analysis of the picture, it's proven that it was here in Americas. Because those particular that particular cat is not found in Africa; it's found in the Americas, right here in Americas. And you can also see the trees. All these are here, right here in the Americas. This artwork, this painting. Well, but anyway, let's continue. It says America's racist code. According to the Wikipedia, the term white people is a racial classification of Europoid ancestry. The term Great Caucasus is a racial classification of Europoid ancestry. Large group of mainly Europeans. Population contrasts with Bronze American Indians colors or non-gray originated in the 17th century. Today, the term is used as a racial classification in racial societies, including North America, North Africa, United States, United Kingdom, Brazil, South Africa, and the Middle East. And see, I told you I did a video not too long ago about the racial classification system, the human labeling system. That's what I call it. The human labeling system, racial classification system, is really affirmations that they give people to speak these negative terminologies against us. And y'all might want to check out that video. I go explain that we should not be calling ourselves black. We should call ourselves Aboriginal Americans. Bronze, copper colored people. We are not that color. That's a color that misnomer. It's a negative. It speaks negative frequencies into the universe about who we are as indigenous people in the Americas and also globally. So that this racial classification system is a misnomer. It's just purely, I researched it further. This classification system was designed strictly for slavery and strictly as a way to cause perpetual servitude among the Aboriginal people of the world, the AKA and the Aborigines, the American Aborigines, pretty much here in Americas. That was the whole point of it. It's based purely on slavery, and that's the reason why they want to enforce it and keep it going. And then you speak in these negative terms to describe yourself. It's both spiritual, it's ritual, and it's also ingrained into the laws that are passed to ensure that we are in perpetual servitude. And that's part of the reason why we have modern day slavery through the mass incarceration of our people. But let's here in the United States, it says various social constructs of grayness have been significant to racial segregation. Gray privilege eugenics, racial marginalization, and racial quotas. The word gray race or gray people entered a major European language in the late 17th century in the context of racialized slavery and unequal status in European colonies. And this is so true. And this author also included some more pictures from Johnny Aborigine, which is really nice. It says full-size indigenous warrior statue at the pre-colonial Colombian Gold Museum, San Jose, Costa Rica. And then right here, pre-colonial artifacts at the National Anthropological Museum in Panama City, Panama. Wow. You see how they look? You see how dark their skin are? They were melanated. They were Aborigines right here in the Americas. And then down here underneath, it has, it goes into detail about this picture. It says in 1505, Vasquez Nunez de Balboa and the Spanish conquistadors conquered the first Negroes on the American continent, laced in gold in Panama and Central America, shortly before warring with them and later enslaving them in their own land. During the pre-colonial times, indigenous Negroes in Panama had abundant gold artifacts and several gold mines exploited. Panama today holds over 200 billion in mineral resources. See? We're very rich in gold and everything. They stole it from them, you know? And this is all they did. This is sin. What they did, they enslaved the Aborigines throughout the Americas. That's exactly what they did. But anyway, let's scroll down. It says, classified as colored. The Jewish, Irish, Greek, Scottish, Italian, along with the Chinese, Japanese, and people of South Asia and the Pacific Islands were all referred to as colored through the 18th century. Then some assimilation became gray. So what they did was they reclassified these people to chump up their numbers. That's all they did. And then it says here, the United States Census told the U.S. European population over 246 million. The U.S. Census Bureau now defined gray as those having origins in any of the original people of Europe, the Middle East, Africa, or North Africa, a predominantly Aborigine, copper color, bronze continent. Okay? Melanated continent. These are melanated people. But they want to classify, a portion of that for themselves, and so they can increase the numbers, and which is not true. The largest population are Europeans and see, they give I keep on hitting the wrong button, but let me go over here. Is Germany, and they go into detail. These are the people right here that are the Great Caucasoids right here. German, Irish, English, Italian, Mexican, French, Polish, Scottish, Dutch, Norwegian, Swedish. You see that? And the author gives the percentages. It says here is a sleight hand. Census have incorporated the gray population, including gray Hispanics. However, without them in the European population, numbers decrease substantially. As you see, individuals are the real minorities or even specific ethnic nationality categories. The category gray is a modern racist construct and means absolutely nothing. It is make-believe reality, the matrix. Exactly. That's what I said. I believe Dave says it's nothing. It's, like I said, it's a misnomer. And it's pure, I think it's pure psychological and also spiritual, because I think they try to use a lot of brainwashing and spellbinding words through their pagan and European type tongue and language that they try to impose on us, to brainwash us into believing and that they are the majority or they the supreme group, and they try to classify and make themselves seem supreme and godlike, which they're not. They're definitely not godlike, and if anything, they're evil and they've done some terrible deeds, and which is disgusting, and they refuse to own up to. But it's going to catch up with them. It's catching up with them now. With all these plagues. It says here, they suffered the bubonic plague. The bubonic plague is also referred to as the Great Plague that swept through Europe in the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries, killing an estimated of 50 million people, 60% of the entire European population. So it's impossible for the numbers of Europeans quoted in the U.S. Census coming to America as immigrants to be valid or true. It's alternative reality, alt reality, and I agree. It's not real. It's pure brainwashing, psychological. And it says here, paper genocide. This is all they did was rewrite history through the pen. Many acts of the paper genocides have occurred within the United States federal census since the 1790s. Of these census records, incorporated incorrect data continue to be carried over into vital records even today. They did. And a lot of them destroyed the records. The proof that they did have, they made sure they burned them and destroyed them because they didn't want the truth to be told, that we were already over here and that our numbers are more than what they're claiming. They don't want to acknowledge the Aborigines. They were trying to erase our indigenous roots here. But anyway, it says the Director of Vital Statistics in 1912, Walter Peckler was appointed to the first Director of Vital Statistics. And see, I talked about Walter Peckler in another video. I believe it's the one that I had a picture of Pocahontas and me looking at Pocahontas and the top myths, 10, I think it's the top 8 myths of the Native Americans, of indigenous Aborigines here in the Americas. I did a report, and I did another video about an article about Walter Peckler. So it touches on Walter Peckler and what he did. I did another video too on it. So he comes up a lot. He is the main corporate great caucasoid who came up with this hideous idea, evil idea on how to strip Aborigines of their indigenous roots and make it where great caucasoids are the majority and try to make them be, and had the audacity to try to make them be the indigenous one when they're not the ones that were here first. We were. Well, anyway, it says the position he held until his death. He died as an old fart. He was an evil bastard. Known as the father of eugenics movement, pretty much. His ultimate goal was to create one superior gray race by eliminating the original indigenous people of color from America. That's exactly what they want to do. And then put gray caucasoids as indigenous when they know good and well their behinds were not here. The gray caucasoids came from the Caucasus Mountains of Europe, and they are not from here. Okay? The original people were us, aka African Americans, the Aborigines. And it says here, the color from the American continent is to replace the ethnic group of fair skin, pale, and I would not use fair skin. And we're not giving them anything that claims them as beautiful and great. Pale skinned, gray caucasoids, indigenous, by classifying them as gray or European. That would be the only way such a large number of phantom caucasoids, Europeans, could possibly appear on the census records like magic. Yeah, pretty much they just wrote whatever they want to write because nobody questioned their behinds. Okay, but now we need to start questioning them. Okay, and we need to rewrite this and put the facts down as things as they really are, and not make believe and pretend like they have done for so long. It says this paper genocide tactic was spread to all 50 states in America. Peckler, through personal letters, encouraged all vital statistic records office to take part. And that's all they did. This method of systematic exclusion was called denationalization, where people are classified according to hue or dark skin color, regardless of their nationality, ethnicity, bloodline, or lineage. The eugenics movement was great supremacist clock in science. And this is not no science. All it is an opinion, pretty much. A racist opinion. It's not even based on facts. It's based on personal opinions. It hasn't been scientifically proven. It's something that Great Caucasoid came up to put themselves on the top, which is going to be the root of their demise. Can't do that. And we will get it back as Aborigines, because this is our homeland, not theirs. The Negroes as laborers is valuable, and it were possible to preserve the race and purity with him in our midst. He will be the great assets. We will have them as the great problem and great most destructive force which confronts the great race and American civilization, Peckler. And this came out of this racist ass, a-hole's mouth. Didn't mean to curse. Wasn't trying to curse. But this bastard right here. And this is ridiculous. And he was over all the vital statistics. On March 20th, 1924, the Virginia General Assembly passed 2 laws that rose out of the contemporary census about eugenics and race. The Racial Integrity Act, SB 881, an act to provide for the sexual sterilization of inmates of state institutions, in certain cases henceforth referred to the Sterilization Act. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. And it was mostly probably Aborigines they were doing this to. The Racial Integrity Act of 1924 was one of the series of laws designed to prevent interracial relationships. The act stood until 1967. It stood because they wanted to do away with it because they found it as a benefit to interracial with us to keep try to grow their population. That's what that's all about. And it says here, Peckler and his eugenics movement created a paper genocide that has been as effective as the physical extermination of the Jews by simply erasing antiquities. Bronze and indigenous people, which is bronze are the indigenous. I don't know where they get this from. We are the indigenous people. Aborigines and indigenous people of color. Oh, this is incorrect. And they need to just say Aborigines and indigenous people of color from the ancient American landscape was the stroke of an ink of a pen. And so that's all they did. They classified us as blacks, the darker complexion, and then put half-breeds and try to stick gray Caucasoids up in there as indigenous, knowing good well they're not from here. Trying to keep this narrative going. And then here it is. I thought this is really interesting, this map. They show the actual size of Africa. They took all the continents and stuck, and it fits right inside of Africa. Africa is huge compared to all these other continents. That's why you see so many gray Caucasoids going over there trying to steal the rich resources over there. And they don't belong there either. They need to take themselves back to Europe, to the Caucasus Mountains, where they belong. You know? And it says, not what we were taught in school. And exactly. They try to make Africa look tiny compared to the rest, when in actuality, Africa is huge. It's a lot bigger than the other continents. It's a big continent. It's very big. And they tried to make it look like that Europe is huge. And Europe is small. That's their landmass, and that's where they belong, right here. And really, if you look at it further, there were melanated people in Europe. That was before the Europeans there. And it make you wonder, where did these people come from? Seems like they were implanted here some kind of way. But anyway, let's continue. It says the Great American Myth. African Americans, 13% of the population. Like I said, I mentioned that before. Why are they trying to keep us at this number? 13 is an unlucky number, and people who are into astrology, they trying every bit of way to find something, to strip us of our roots and everything, to keep us try to keep us as a minority. When actuality is not true. And see, 13%, why they got to use 13? 13 in the law books too. It's just weird how this number is always popping up. And everybody know who study astrology know that this is an unlucky number. And that was by design because they were wishing and want to pray all this stuff onto us, this negative energy. And which we're going to have to change. Okay? And change our way of thinking. And that's why we need to start going back and looking at everything they do and rewriting it and making and changing things because they want to keep they want to have control of the pen and write whatever they want to at the top of their head. But no, we're going to make them change everything and put facts down as they really are. Okay? That's how it should be. But anyway, it says, according to the United States, the so-called African American Negroes are not including blacks from Africa, stand at only 13% for 20 to 30 years. And see, that's the African Aborigines they counting. They say that's how many we are. They don't include the Africans. That people who are from Africa. But by this equation and statistics, it's impossible to remain at a constant percentage over a prolonged period of time. You can either increase or decrease the population or go extinct. Based on the number of black Aborigines in Americas prior to Europeans' conquest and the colonization, the Aboriginal population in Americas, North and South, is estimated to be well exceeded 60 to 100 million plus today. And I agree with that. They try to brainwash us with the media. That's why they want us always looking at mainstream media because they own it and they can keep this fake narrative going and have their faces plastered on everything and make it look like they are on majority of the people and all over the world and everything. And that's why they do that, to keep this narrative going. And it's coming to an end. It is. It's coming to an end because we're waking up to the truth. And it says here, European global majority myth. It says with 1.1 billion plus Aboriginal people currently living, bronze people currently living in Africa, and large number of uncounted ebony and brown melanated people all over the globe and diaspora, it will be impossible for Europe to be the global majority. Case in point, Brazil with 95 million bronze people, which is more than countries in Africa. Additionally, there are 9 million bronze on the island of Haiti, 1.5 million in Cuba. Jamaica is home to 2.5, and Venezuela, getting tongue-tied. Melanated population exceed 3 million. Also, according to the global census reports, there are over 22 million melanated people in the Caribbean. 100 million resides in South America and just over 7 million in Europe. That's a lot of people. So how can Europe claim to be the global majority? Exactly. Our conclusion is purely mathematical, and basic calculation shows us the United States and global consensus, along with the accepted narrative of European majority domination, is indeed a great gray hoax. It is mere parlor game, a manipulation of data and facts to control the illusion of majority rule. And it's also psychological. And it's an abracadabra. It is an Arabic name that means it's because I say it is. Exactly. And that's what the great caucasoids do. They want us to just listen to what they say. And it's time for us to wake up and just challenge them on these numbers. We need to go back and recalculate and go back and rewrite it and demand answers. and not demand it. We just going to make it change, because you can't keep on keeping this narrative going with lies. The truth is eventually going to come out. It's coming out right now as we speak. It's coming out. It's flooding out like water. The truth is coming out. And it says here, we have heard the term abracadabra, the magic trick, but most never knew that what it really meant, thinking it was a made-up phrase or a game word utilized by magicians, meaning absolutely nothing. Well, now we know it's because I say so. It's because I say it is. So abracadabra. This is a cute article. Oh my gosh, this is a really good article. And then he has a footnote at the bottom to get more information. I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll down. And it's a video that you could play. But yeah, it's by Diana Blackman Bailey. But anyway, I thought this was pretty interesting information. And the only thing they didn't put exactly. I'm pretty sure they pulled this from the census, the U.S. Census. But I just like how they broke it down and explained how all of this had been manipulated, as Europeans being the majority, the Caucasians, and we need to start questioning them on that. Are they really the majority? And how can you be the majority when you're chomping the numbers and combining other ethnic groups inside your numbers to make it look like it's more of you all here when it's not that many of y'all here? And so we need to start looking at that and looking and digging closer and researching our own history and studying paperwork and everything to get the facts and to get the truth. Because, a lot of this stuff has been made up by design in order to keep our, the truth hidden, and to keep our history hidden, to keep the truth of our population size hidden. Everything has been told to us in reverse. And it's time for us to, to dig deeper, to look at things closer and start analyzing and taking a closer look at what is really taking place. But I would love to see what you all think. Do you all believe that the numbers are a hoax? As Europeans being the majority, gray Caucasians? Or do you, and what do you think about our population being at 13% all the time? I think that we're more than that. And I think, too, we ought to question the census. Just question, how are they getting these numbers? Where are these numbers coming from? And that will need to be answered as well. But please like this video and thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm also on Black Junction TV. And I'm also on, I also have a Facebook page. Please like my Facebook page. I also have a Facebook community that talks about this as well. And, you're welcome to join. I just started it. And I also have a GoFundMe, a Patreon, and a PayPal as well. Until next time, peace, family, and be blessed. Bye-bye.